We're here today to talk about a special program in Dubois County, Court-Appointed Special Advocates for Children. We're back out on the patio. I'm Bradford Raths, and I'm joined by Deena Hubler, John Siebert, and Judge Weikert. Welcome.
Thank you.
So let's kind of start how this program came about. It's relatively new, as I understand it.
Well, the program actually started in the 90s, early 90s, and Judge Hugo Songer started the program, and I was actively involved in helping get the program started. And it's come a long way over the years. I think in its inception we didn't have a lot of training, didn't really have a firm program, but over the years the program really got a lot of structure, got more organized. We started training volunteers. Deena Hubler was brought on as the director. She's done a great job in terms of forming the program to what it is today. Judge, over the years, what have you seen in terms of the program and what it's done in the courtroom?
Well, let me go back a little bit. I think a CASA is a court-appointed special advocate, and a CASA is a volunteer who is trained by the court and is assigned to a child who's in the court system because a child has been abused or neglected. That's what a CASA is. These children are not delinquents. They haven't committed any crimes. They're victims. So, first of all, that's what the program is all about. Historically, as John said, Judge Songer created this program in '91, and for many years it wasn't mandatory. It's always been a great help because these kids who are in the court system, the advocate, the CASA is the only person who's really there to look out for the child. But then in 2005, the state legislature here in Indiana passed a law that said every child in the court as a victim shall have a CASA. So now the need is mandatory. And what we're seeing is an increase in number over the years, especially the last 2 or 3 years, to where we need more volunteers.
So take us through a typical case, per se, from when you get the child and you give them an advocate and then through its end. Okay,
I'll try to summarize it for you. Typically, if there is an arrest, let's say at a home, and mom and dad are taken to jail, the DCS, the Division of Child Services, is called to come to the scene at the same time, and they will call a judge and get permission to remove the children because there's nobody at home. What we try to do first is to put the child or children with a relative, but now there are some restrictions regarding that. There has to be a minimal background check on the relative to make sure that we're not placing the child in the wrong environment. After that's done, within 48 hours of the removal, there has to be a hearing, a detention hearing. Everybody comes to court. And at the hearing, I hear the evidence that resulted in the child being removed, and then there's an initial hearing, and that's when the CASA gets involved. As soon as we have an initial hearing, we try to appoint a CASA who will be involved for that child thereafter.
So you talked a little bit about the volunteers. Take us through what they really do for these kids.
Let me give you a volunteer to answer that question.
Thank you. What the volunteers do, basically a CASA is really appointed to be the voice of the child in court. And what I do as a volunteer when I'm appointed to a case, I basically meet the child, meet the parents, meet the family, try to find out really why the child ended up in this situation, and do a lot of background work in terms of just to best understand the case and why we're involved in this. From there, typically we'll do a lot of research in terms of any past history, try to review all the court documents that have been put together to date, and then from there it's really about monitoring the case, keeping constant contact with the child, and making sure that through the whole process the child's needs are met. That's really our main focus.
And the judge briefly mentioned this, but I'll let you talk about it a little bit. There's now a need for volunteers because I think he said 2005 they passed a law that all children have to have advocates.
Right. It seems like there's really been a spike in our county in terms of the need. We probably have right now a lack of 15 volunteers. We need 15 volunteers as of today, and that keeps rising. And Deena, maybe you can give a little feedback in terms of what you see in terms of in our county, why that number keeps escalating.
Well, I wish I knew why it was escalating. I see a lot more, meth and things like that. But I can't give a firm answer as to why our cases are increasing. We do have a lot more drug-related cases than we used to have. But like today, just to get out of the hole today, I need 7 volunteers, and that would just put me even. But we would love to have at least 15 by the end of the year.
So let's go around and talk about now how people can get involved in this. I know it's a great cause. How can people get involved?
Well, we start out the process by, they can contact me at, my phone number is 812-639-0143, and I will email them an application. And once they complete that, we go through an interview process and background checks and training. And this whole process is a time for them to learn more about the program. So just because they call and say they'd like to have an application or find out more information, it doesn't mean they're stuck for life. You know, we work with them to make sure they're fully trained and fully understand before they get a case and are comfortable with that.
So how long does that training typically go?
We train for 3 hours, 1 day a week for 5 weeks in a row. And then they're sworn in the circuit court.
Okay, and then how many cases do you think a volunteer will work in any given period of time? Maybe over a year or over a couple months?
Okay.
Or
Typically, we start out with 1 case, and occasionally, actually several of our volunteers right now have 2 cases. But they start out with the 1, and once that kind of gets through the investigation period and where it's kind of just leveling out and monitoring, then some of them will accept a 2nd case.
okay, anything that anybody else would like to add at this point?
Maybe the requirements. Really, there's very few requirements. You need to be 21 years of age, be able to pass a police check or background check. I think the main thing is that you care about kids. And looking at the kids we serve, it's kids that have been abused or neglected. And not many people don't care about kids, and not many people don't care about kids that have problems like this. So it's a real easy cause to get involved and engaged in. I always view it as if I can do it, anybody can. It's really a simple process. It's just a matter of committing some time to it. And it's probably about an average of 5 hours a month. It's not a lot of time. And I think the key is to get the training on the front end. And the first month or 2 is typically what I call the heavy rowing. You need to do more research, probably meet more people. So it might take a little bit more time on the front end, but after that it kind of averages out.
This has been our conversation with Deena Hubler, John Siebert, and Judge Weikert talking about the Court-Appointed Special Advocates for Children program in Dubois County. We'll have more news right after this.